Hello everyone. In this video we're going to be taking a look at an article from the Associated Press. It was written by David Bowder. Now it says it was published yesterday, and I don't know if it's going by West Coast time or East Coast time or what. So this was probably published on Friday the 17th, but it might have been published on Thursday, August 16th. It's funny how they're using this article to now try to distance themselves from the fake news outlets, and they're throwing Fox in when they've been more credible. It's actually kind of funny. They're like, we're fact-based. Actually, no, you've interjected more of your own personal shit into stories than, you know, just strictly printed fact. Just like Maddow, who you have here. As our media environment blurs, confusion often reigns. What they're basically kind of like leaning at with that title, at least my interpretation is you can trust us. A generation ago, the likes of Walter Cronkite, Peter Jennings, and Diane Sawyer were the heroes of television news. Now the biggest stars are arguably Sean Hannity and Rachel Maddow. And I love this. They were the heroes of television news. Walter Cronkite, which you find out he actually was very, very biased, and he slanted shit. He just was good about hiding it. The same with Peter Jennings and Diane Sawyer. They were just good at hiding it. Now, there's no need to hide it, because the left and the right have decided to just openly show their bias for you. You don't have to guess. Notice the difference. Cronkite, Jennings, and Sawyer reported the news. Hannity and Maddow talk about the news and occasionally make it, but you never doubt how they feel about it. Well, that's the thing. You're trying to make it, well, because they're openly doing it, you know, that's one thing. And look, they're just reporting the news. They weren't doing it. No, they were just doing it concealed. They had, I'm trying to think of the right way to put this. If they wanted to influence people, if they wanted to influence policy, if they wanted to influence anything, say on a political or social level, they had to be sly about it. They had to make it seem like it was an impartial report, but it was still slanted one way. That's how things worked back then. It wasn't just with them. And when you don't have the choices and options out there, the variety and outlets to get your news and information from, as you do now with the internet, because people like me can report on and provide commentary to current events and other news and information, whether it's politics or whatever else. When you don't have that, it's easier to also get away with not being biased. Because you have, well, you got this choice or that choice for getting your news, and they're basically, you know, giving you the same exact thing. Who's to say that it's factual? They're just reporting the same stuff. Doesn't mean it's factual, though. In a chaotic media landscape with traditional guideposts stripped away by technology and new business models, the old lines between journalism and commentary are growing even fuzzier. As President Donald Trump rewrites the rules of engagement to knock the media off stride, he's found a receptive audience among his supporters for complaints about fake news and journalists who are enemies of the people. Well, I actually have to give David a little credit here, because he kind of got that right, even though he's taking shit out of context. You know, with the whole quotes thing, enemies of the people and such. He's not saying, well, he's calling all of the media fake news and is attacking all journalists. He's admitting that there are some out there that could be that way by that. He's not denying it. And what do you mean by rewriting the rules of engagement? Because what gets me is this whole quote-unquote presidential thing, how they should act with the press and everything else, is a pretty modern thing. If you go back through history, well, history of the United States, since its founding, you had more than a few presidents that were more than willing to call out the press. More than willing to do it. Teddy Roosevelt was a very politically incorrect man and called out many members of the press. Abraham Lincoln, besides imprisoning them, he called out the press. It's now perceived that for whatever reason, a president should just sit there and take whatever the press say about them. That they should not have a right to defend themselves, call out the person that's talking shit about them. And if you break that rule, you're going after the press. No, that's not how it works. That's how they see it, though. In such a climate, it is any wonder people... Wow. I'm sorry. I forgot this point was where he starts saying that people are stupid and they can't make up their own minds and they can't distinguish fact from opinion. In such a climate, it is any wonder people seem to be having is it any wonder that people seem to be having a hard time from distinguishing facts from point of view and sometimes from outright fiction? What? So you're saying people are stupid? I take back my giving you credit on admitting that shit. You don't deserve credit for that because you're just being fucking honest, you piece of shit, Knight, because you're being dishonest here. You're trying to say people are stupid. If you're talking about people on the left because they buy into Mad Cow and Cuomo and all those idiots at MSNBC and Fox and CNBC and the Young Turks and Kuklinski, Pac-Man, they spoon feed people. The only ones that are dumb and not able to distinguish that shit tend to be on the left these days. There's been a deliberate dumbing down of the left these days. It's a conclusion that it's driving anger at the news. Wait, what? It is a conclusion that is driving anger at the news media as a whole? What the fuck are you talking about? No, it's not. The only people that are having, the anger of people put against them are outlets like CNN, MSNBC, so on and so forth. If they stopped talking shit and actually, decided to not be propagandists pushing lies and complete fabrications like Russia, 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 then people would stop getting pissed at them because they're sick of hearing the fucking shit that's being spewed. It's that simple. On Thursday, it produced a coordinated effort by a collection of the nation's newspapers to hit back at perceptions that they are somehow unpatriotic. Because they are. They're anti-American, they're pro-globalists. If you're pushing globalist shit like open borders, free trade, quote-unquote free trade, where the U.S. has no tariffs and we get fucked on tariffs the other way around, you're unpatriotic. It's a fact. We don't have a communications and public sphere that can discern between fact and opinion, between serious journalists and phonies, says Stephen J.A. Ward, author of 10 books on the media, including the upcoming Ethical Journalism in a Populist Age. Well, he thinks people are morons. Wow. People can easily Excuse me. People can easily distinguish between fact and opinion, between serious journalists and phonies. They've been doing it for many years now, okay? Yeah. Good example of this, and this goes back, because I'm in my early 40s. This goes through my childhood, all right? The National Enquirer, and all those other tabloids. I was just going to start rambling off a bunch of names because my grandmother loved them. And I used to know them all. The daily, weekly, whatever the hell it is. But all of them. Do you honestly think people look at them as serious journalists, even though, say, on the note of the Enquirer, they have broken some very serious stories? Of course not. They're able to distinguish that. You're not giving people credit because you're trying to justify your existence, and you're trying to say that because people are stupid, that's why I don't get what I want in this world. Because people, they buy into shit that I see as lies and bullshit. So because I think it's that way, they should see it that way. Not long ago, think back 30 years, the news business had a certain order to it. Yeah, there was limited outlets, and they could tell you the sky was fucking purple. And unless you were able to look outside, you'd believe it. Evening newscasts on ABC, CBS, and NBC gave straightforward accounts of the day's events, and morning shows told you what happened while you slept. Yes and no. Like I said, on the note of, say, Cronkite and the others, they were just more sly about putting their slant on things. Newspapers flourished, with sections clearly marked for news and editorial pages for opinion. The one cable network in its infancy followed the play-it-straight rules of the big broadcasters. There was no internet, no social media feed, no smartphone with headlines flashing. Oh, so it's the internet's fault for fake news. It's smartphones' fault for fake news. It's social media's fault for fake news. It's not the actual perpetuators of fake news' fault. Aha! Gotcha. You just don't realize that you were still being lied to back in those days. And you talk about the one cable network, meaning CNN. Back in those days that you're talking about, they still lied. I suggest anyone go and might not necessarily want to do it with Google, because it might be censored, but probably not. But if you look, it was on YouTube. It probably still is. Back in these days that they're talking about how when CNN was so credible, during the first Gulf War as in Operation Desert Storm, they literally faked having reporters fall under come under a Scud attack. On top of the Atlanta headquarters of CNN with, blue screen, because back then they did blue screen more than green screen. At the time, they had where you could literally get the raw satellite feeds from, say, HBO and CNN and all these different stations. You could just, aim your satellite dish and pull them out of the air, so to speak. Well, that's what happened to them. People were watching their raw feed. They weren't thinking about it. And someone happened to have a VCR running at the time. And they got busted. And shortly after, CNN started pushing for the fact of making it so that consumers couldn't watch the raw feeds anymore of, like, basically anyone. They're like, it's not just about us, it's about everyone else too, because they can do it and illegally watch our content, and we're not going to be, we're losing money because, that wasn't the reason why they were doing it. It was because they got caught. This is ridiculous. Oh, the days of yore, they were so much better. Today, many newspapers are diminished. People are as likely to find articles through links on social media posted by friends and celebrities. 3 TV news channels, Two with firmly established points of view air an endless loop of politically laced talk. There is no easy escape from 24-hour-a-day news culture. Only two with the... oh, so what? Fox and MSNBC? Fox or CNN? No, you've got more than two. Because ABC, biased. CBS, biased. NBC, biased. Just look at their supposed, evening entertainment with, the evening shows that used to be about fun and laughter and, like The Tonight Show and such. They have clear bias. If it's going to be on those shows, it's going to be in their news. So then you also have, like CNN and MSN, you have, your cable networks. You have all of them. They're all biased. Quit trying to play it like, oh, it's not really that way. Wow. The internet's emergence has made the media far more democratic, for good and ill. There are many more voices to hear, but the loudest ones frequently get the most attention. No, that's not how democracies necessarily work on the note of free speech. Well, at least you're trying to treat it like mob rule. And you really can't make that comparison. See, free speech and the democratic process of people being able to choose whether or not to hear or listen to, or however you want to put it, certain things. That's the idea of how you find out if something is going to be valid or not, because you have a discussion about it, okay? And bad ideas get worked out, discussed out, and considered as such. No one can control the flow of information across social media and the internet media, says George Campbell, a 53-year-old business consultant from Chicago. This has led to a confusion about facts versus fake, but mostly it has resulted in a cash cow for conspiracy makers. Yeah, they're kind of hinting at the whole Alex Jones thing, I think. Let's not neglect the memorable journalism that the Trump era has produced all across the country. Many newspapers are far from failing, as Trump often claims about the scoop-hungry shops at the New York Times and the Washington Post. No, they are failing. The Washington Post, the only reason why it is still in business is Bezos has taken his Amazon money and he keeps pumping it into that cash cow not leader. It's not a cash cow leader, a cash cow loser. The New York Times is complete shit. The Boston Globe is complete shit. They're all failing. And they know it. You're trying to act like, well, newspapers could still compete. No, not when people consume their information digitally. No one wants to sit there and read a fucking newspaper these days. Even legacy media digital subscriptions, they don't want to do that. Why? Because you assholes, we've realized that you're full of shit. The number of digital subscribers to the Times has jumped from below 1 million in 2015 to more than 2.4 million now. Okay. What has their subscriptions on the actual newspaper seen for a drop or a gain? Oh, that's right. It dropped. Their sales of actual newspapers. Oh, right. Again, they dropped. So you're being kind of dishonest here, because some of those people obviously transitioned to where they could, view it on their tablets and phones and shit like that instead of picking up a fucking newspaper. So it's not like they're gaining subscribers. They're having people transition. The cable news networks have turned politics into primetime entertainment, and has been both great for business and polarizing. Fox News Channel from the right and MSNBC from the left are frequently the most watched cable networks in the country. MSNBC is not. You're a liar. MSNBC's ratings are pretty fucking shitty. They're almost as bad as CNN's. Fox, on the other hand, they're actually doing pretty decent. For many years, those networks' executives did a delicate dance. The stations were news during the day, opinion at night. But with opinion shows so successful, shouting what you believe tends to pop more than facts. it has become harder to suppress those identities. Even with different sides are given, the hours are filled with opinionated people giving their takes. Yeah, and if people are unable to distinguish someone giving their point of view on something, their opinion, they're a fucking moron, which is what you're basically saying the American people are. Which is funny because you're talking about, well, we should just give them the facts. But you're saying they're too stupid to tell what facts are. So how are they going to make an informed, articulate decision based on the facts? See, there's your contradiction there, Zippy. A recent White House briefing illustrates how the Trump administration has plucked examples from the endless talk feed in its campaign against the media. You had it right the first time. There are some journalists and some outlets that are the enemy of the people, that are not there to operate in the best interests of the people. They're there to operate in interests that are, either personal on the note of individuals that are running things, or ideological, or whatever else. When Press Secretary Sarah Sanders rebuffed CNN reporter Jim Acosta's attempt to have her renounce Trump's attacks on the press, she noted that she's been attacked personally by the media more than once, including CNN. Yeah, exactly. Well, he's attacking us. No, he's not attacking you as a whole. He's attacking individuals in certain outlets. There's a difference. It's not attacking the media or the press. It's attacking. It would be like me going after someone personally, verbally. No different. And she's right. You assholes have gone after her left, right, and center. You put that psycho fucking unfunny bitch that talk like that, like Fran Drescher on fucking crack. Or actually, no. It was more like Fran Drescher on, like, heroin, because she was slower, which could be the fact that her brain was moving slower. I mean, she could have done the crack first and then went to heroin. But, yeah. You put her on and just went after her hardcore with that bitch. Well, she was trying to get your approval, and you were like, let's see how she acts wanting our approval. You created that situation. Both of Sanders' references had nothing to do with news reporting and a lot to do with expression of opinion. One of them, for example, came from an MSNBC appearance by Jennifer Rubin, a Washington Post columnist paid specifically to give her take on things. But that kind of distinction blurs where it's decoupled from the newspaper columns and appears in the wild of social media feeds. I don't blame the public for being confused, said Kathleen Hall Jameson, communications professor and director of the Annenberg Public Policy Center at the University of Pennsylvania. Again, all these fucking elites, whether they're in the Fourth Estate or academia, all of them, they seriously think we're fucking stupid and we're unable to tell fact from opinion, fact from fiction. In a heated news environment, journalists are left to find descriptions for things they haven't seen before. CNN's Anderson Cooper called Trump's performance in a joint news conference with Russia's Vladimir Putin disgraceful after both leaders left a Helsinki stage this summer. For Cooper, it was a monument of truth-telling. For the president's supporters, it was a brash embrace of bias. It was his fucking opinion, you sleazy shitbag. Holy shit. You're defending Anderson, once CIA, always CIA, fucking Cooper, stating a bullshit opinion as a moment of truth-telling, as in it was fact? Dude, get bent! Holy crap, you are a sleazy little piece of shit over here. You know, it's funny. The title is like, we're trying to separate ourselves from the fake news. And then here you are defending the fake news as you get further into it. Because you didn't expect your left readers to read this far down. You didn't expect your right readers to read this far down. You just expected, you know, the clickbait title, we're different. They'd read the beginning, see how you're calling out shit in the first paragraph or two, and then that would be that. You are sleazy pieces of shit. The Pew Research Center conducted an experiment earlier this year. It presented more than 5,000 adults with 5 statements of fact and 5 opinions and asked them to identify which was which. Only 26% of respondents correctly identified the 5 facts and 35% identified 5 opinions as such. Okay, well, if they're listening to you assholes when it comes to news, politics, those types of things, of course they're going to put out the fucking opinion shit as fact. Because all the left has, all the Fourth Estate has, the legacy media, all of you. All you have is your opinion. And opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one. How many of those people listen to people like you, I wonder? The survey suggested that people are in different realities. For instance, 63% of Republicans correctly said that the statement Barack Obama was born in the United States was a fact. Meanwhile, 37% of Democrats incorrectly identified the statement increasing the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour is essential for the health of the U.S. economy as fact, not opinion. Ha ha ha! Well, of course they would think that's a fact when it is actually quite the opposite. $15 an hour would kill the economy because it would cause rampant inflation. What growth you're seeing, what you need is for the economy to grow, to then drive wages to increase. If you falsely inflate wages, it just kills the economy. Overall, Americans have some ability to separate what is factual from what is opinion, said Amy Mitchell, Pew's director of journalism research. But the gaps across population groups raise caution, especially given all we know about news consumers' tendency to feel worn out by the amount of news there is these days, and to dip briefly into and out of news rather than engage deeply with it. So they might tune out for when you're... Okay. Let me translate that. When you're constantly talking about Russia, 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 and you're sounding like Marsha fucking Brady, and you're not saying Marsha, but you're saying Russia. Russia, Russia, Russia. Russia, Russia, Russia. When you're doing that shit, when you're doing that, day in and day out, for pretty much every hour of the day, of course, people are going to tune out rather than engage deeply with the content. Makes sense, because if you're saying the same shit over and over and over again every single day, they've already heard it. They do not need for it to be browbeat into their head like they're in some cult where they're being brainwashed, which is exactly what you would rather have. Another contributing factor to confusion is the way news articles often lose their context when spread on Twitter feeds and other social media, Jameson said. Opinion and news stories live in the same space, sometimes clearly marked, sometimes not. But the thing is people are able to read and distinguish for themselves. The idea that people are too stupid to understand that facts are who, what, when, where, and why, and editorialization is based off of those things, they really need help. That used to be a very simple concept. You know, my previous generations prior to my grandparents, they understood that. My mother's generation, my father's generation, because they're technically from 2 different generations. My mother is a cusp boomer. My father was born prior to that. With them, they were able to distinguish the 2 different generations. My generation, for the most part, pretty decent at that. Millennials, on the other hand, they're the ones that think $15 an hour is essential. What does that tell you? I mean, Gen Z, they've improved on that note from not being like the millennials on that in that particular instance. You know, that type of situation. Because the thing is, if you want proof of how dumbed down and unable to distinguish fact and opinion a group is, you just look at the millennial generation. 65 genders or 87 genders or 152 genders, well, whatever number of genders they believe now. Okay? The fact that gender is a construct. The fact that sex and gender are not interrelated. Sex is assigned at birth as opposed to not a result of your actual genetics. Yeah. I mean, they're complete basket cases. If you told them that running through a cornfield backwards naked was a pleasurable experience, I'm sure a lot of them, no offense to millennials out there who listen to my content, I mean, I understand you're not like the rest of them, but they would probably do that. They would drop trow, kick their pants off, pull their shirts off, and start running backwards. And you tell them it's even more fun when the stalks have dried out and got hard. They'd probably be like, ooh, let's wait then. Those are the people you got to worry about. And it's because they've been spoon-fed shit in a cultural Marxist education system. They've been taught to believe what they're told and not to think for themselves. Previous generations were taught to think for themselves. Now, Gen X, our generation, we were the ones who started seeing this get ratcheted up. With being told, black is white and up is down and told to just believe it. But because our parents were critical thinkers and we started in an environment where we were being taught to be critical thinkers, it really didn't start working on us. Because, we were older when it started. But millennials, from day one in public schools, they were put through that. One Facebook feed, for example, linked to a Los Angeles Times article with the headline, in a strikingly ignorant tweet, Trump gets almost everything about California wildfires wrong and gave no indication that it was an opinion piece. No shit. Well, of course, that's what the legacy media likes to do, because they like to push their opinion as fact, because they're feels over reals. That's one thing you do not want to admit, is the legacy media is filled with all these elitist, cultural Marxist, left to far left, and when I say far left, I'm talking like Antifa supporting types. Okay, and when I'm saying left, they're like cultural Marxist, not quite march to the streets, punch a Nazi types. But the press is filled with them, or media outlets will say, because the press is the medium. They're filled with those types of people. They're people that fear facts. They hate facts because they counter what they feel. So of course they're going to do something like that. For many people, the editors and news producers who were once media gatekeepers have been replaced by opinionated uncles and old high school classmates who spend all of their time online. Russian trolls harnessed the power of these changes in news consumption before most people realized what was happening. Oh, we got to throw in my Russia conspiracy bullshit. Oh, so you mean all the stuff that basically went off after the election that supposedly influenced the election? I want to know how that's fucking possible, that it influenced the election when pretty much all of it happened after it. But yet, it's what you're implying. The truth, Ward says, is no match for emotional untruths. News organizations have never been particularly good at either working together or telling the public what it is that they do. The first collective effort by journalists to fight back against Trump's attacks came this week when a Boston Globe editor organized newspapers across the country to editorialize against them. That collection promptly was assessed by some as playing into Trump's hands by suggesting collusion on the part of the mainstream media. Well, no fucking shit, it was collusion. And see, The thing is if it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it swims like a duck, its ass is watertight like a duck, it's white or yellow or any other color that a duck is. You know, it's like a mallard, for fuck's sake. It looks like a mallard, even. They're trying to tell you it's not a duck. If you look at these articles, these opinion pieces, which I looked at the one from the Boston Globe, I'll try to remember to put a link to it in the description. If you look at it, they actually are kind of all pushing the same type of idea. Oh, my victimhood status. We're the fourth estate. You gotta love us. We're legit. We're the only press. He attacked us. He's attacking all the press. No, there are other outlets out there that would be press. Okay, because, hell, movies are considered the press. Because it's the medium. It's how it's being presented. It's not the press, as in news. If he was attacking all of the press, he would be attacking anyone who makes TV content online or whatever. He'd be, you know, whether it was entertainment or whatever, he'd be attacking the same with movies, independents and Hollywood alike. He'd be attacking everyone that uses a medium other than their voice directly to a person. He's not doing that, though. But yet you're trying to play it that way. In an ideal world, Ward says, people would have an opportunity to learn media literacy. And he'd have fewer uneasy cocktail party encounters after he meets someone new and he announces that he's an expert in journalism ethics. Yeah, well, obviously he doesn't believe in his freaking profession, because what's going on here is he's covering for their unethical behavior. That's a lack of ethics. If I met him, I'd be like, dude, after especially seeing this article, I'd be like, you're an unethical piece of shit. You shouldn't be teaching journalism ethics. After they laugh, they talk about some person spouting off on Fox or something. He says, what? Oh, it has to be about them spouting off about someone on Fox, showing that the guy is fucking biased. Yet, he's teaching ethics. Kind of like the bike lock ethics professor. These are real ethical people. And, you know, if you can't tell, I'm being sarcastic. Yet, we're supposed to believe that they're impartial enough to actually teach ethics. He has to explain that may be some people's idea of journalism, but it's not news reporting. None of you people are news reporting these days. Almost everything has opinion interjected into it directly. It's not the covert interjection of it like Cronkite and your other examples. It's flat out doing it. I mean, this is some fucked up shit here that Bowder has done. He's basically trying to say, well, MSNBC and Fox, yeah, they're the fake news. They're like the opinion-driven fake news bullshit. He's actually trying to save face for CNN. And newspapers. Okay, and ABC and CBS and wow. This guy is literally trying to say that all the outlets that used to control the flow of information and had been found to not be above board in it at times. I mean, we found out, years after the fact, because of the internet, we should trust them. They're not going to interject their opinion in. They're not going to misrepresent their opinion as fact. Really? Well, I've seen multiple examples in this where that's the exact thing going on here. Oh, well, you're trying to portray CNN as credible, but I gave an example that, that destroyed your whole thing of, well, back in the day, CNN followed all these rules, and no, they didn't. I mean, this is ridiculous. This really is. Anyway, I've covered this well enough. I'm just going to leave things here. If you liked this video, depending on where you are watching it, please give it an upvote or thumbs up. If you want to know when new content of mine hits the internet, don't forget to subscribe to one or more of my social media or video accounts listed here. Also, with YouTube, don't forget to ring that bell. You can find all of my video content on both BitChute and YouTube. This may not be the case with other places I upload to, but I will try to minimize this happening. You are always welcome to interact with me at any of these sites on the list, so feel free to do so. If you have anything you want me to cover in a video when it comes to news or current events, send it right along to me. I will try to do my best to cover it. As always, thank you for watching.